challenging and it can be frustrating, but at the same time, it's awful rewarding. And one of the things that sets your trading strategies above a lot of other ones, I believe, this is so much superior, in my opinion, than what I've seen. I can't say enough about the techniques that you've taught us. My strategy is your strategy. I use your strategy to trade. I've not found an outside strategy that I would even consider yet. Not that I'm looking. I like what I'm doing. But in the beginning, I was very open-minded. Well, maybe there is something else out there. Every strategy I've seen so far either depends on some sort of an indicator that you have to buy. But there's been days when I've opened the chart and I'm like, oh, you don't even have to think about it. It's there. It's plain as a nose on your face. And you take that trade and it's a successful trade. It's a beautiful trade. And there's nothing better than that. I mean, I love that. I'm finally at a level where I'm having fun. Yeah, that's all of it. You'll always be successful if you enjoy it. I believe now I am going to be able to take care of us and give us that lifestyle where we can relax a little bit. I know I don't know. My assumptions are that you're trading from a restaurant or something, especially on Fridays. I always hear background. I miss Cyndi Lauper singing.
Yeah.
You trade anywhere. I mean, not only are you trading, but you're teaching, which is, is one of the beauties of this.
Yeah.
No matter where I go, I can take my computer with me. And I mean, here I have two screens. I have a nice I like the way it's set up. In the motorhome, when we trade, I'll probably just have one decent laptop and I'll work off of that. But I'll be able to make money anywhere I go.
And now you're starting to see it's going to be consistent increase, and it's gone beyond the point of being a coincidence. You know that it's because you know what you're doing.
I know over the last several months, I'm confident enough to say I know I can make a living doing this.
It seems like you have to prove that, yeah, this is what it always does. And in order to do that, you have to pay attention and go through a long period of time and then remember, oh yeah, before it always did this. Then you always think, well, did it always do that? Well, let me think. But there's some things that it just keeps on repeating.
You say it almost every day. Look what the market's doing every day. It does this. It's done this for the last, 30 years since Forex began, or 20 some years. And it's going to do it tomorrow. It's going to do it next year. And you're right. It's going to do this. That Elliott wave it's a science, and it's proven science, and it's going to happen. But for whatever reason, I would challenge. I don't think it's going to do that.
Yeah.
But,
and there's still room for variations of things that you don't know exactly what it's going to do, but there are some things that you pretty much know is in the 80 to 90% probability, just because that's the same thing. Here it goes.
You can't stop learning, and every trade you make, there's a lesson to be learned, whether it's a negative lesson or a positive lesson. And what I'm trying to do is keep it kind of together. There's a lot of different beliefs out there. There are some people who believe. I just started reading Trading in the Zone. I just got the book the other day. Serge was talking about it. I said, let me buy it and read it. And he was in the preface of the book. He talks about how before we have the technology we have today, all traders traded fundamentally, or most traders did. Technical trading almost didn't exist at that point. And now it seems like technical trading has probably has surpassed the fundamental trading. And I believe wholeheartedly that you can look at a chart and know what is going to happen. Yeah, technical trading is invaluable in my eyes, but the fundamental trading, I think it kind of helps. They work together, just like the psychological part of it. You need all of these parts really to work together. So one, like I guess you would consider yourself a technical trader, right? And
Yeah.
But if you look at it, our biggest trading days are news days, which is a fundamental. So they work together. You
Yeah.
kind of you need one to understand the other, really. Like we know, for instance, I mean, you were looking at the euro, and Damien, you guys are really tearing apart the dollar leading up to non-farm payroll. And I mean, anyone who's taking your course can open up that chart and know that without your input or Damien's input, they should know and recognize, okay, that's gonna turn, and that's gonna turn. We expected with non-farm payroll, but it was a little disappointing. But anyway,
A
that
lot
was
of
a
the news, past news, I think last month, what was it? It might have been FOMC where the euro started its path down. Can't remember.
yeah. But here's where fundamentals came in play. I think with the euro is when you remember the end of last year, the end of 2018. I think it was the last Powell interview, and he had a very dovish report regarding the dollar. They decided not to raise interest rates. Was it twice or two or three times next year? So the U.S. dollar started to weaken. So all the other currencies were doing pretty well against the dollar, but then the European, the euro came out with their rate decision, and the Aussie really took a pounding. They came out with their rate decision, and they were all following the Fed with dovish reports. So now their currency started to really go down. So that's what I think fundamental part of it plays with what we're waiting for on a weekly basis with these news. The red level news or orange level news. But that being said, though, I have to look at the technical part of it. There are some people who believe that, well, you can't technical trade uh, without fundamentals, and I don't necessarily believe that. I used to think that there's some truth to that, but I know you can make a living or you can trade profitably by just looking at the charts, anticipating what the next move is going to be. And I do believe that. I don't believe that. I guess in my situation, I needed to understand fundamentals to give me the confidence to trust what I'm seeing on the chart. I guess that's the best way for me to put it.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think I agree that when you have both of them together, you can read the charts and the fundamentals are supporting what you see on the charts. You can really raise that probability and raise the confidence up so high.
Well, I guess that's what I needed. I needed a little bit more. I guess my nature is I'm suspicious of everything. That okay, this is too good to be true. There has to be something. There's always a catch. One of my psychological issues, I guess. So I needed to try to understand it more. Just like when I stumbled across the Russian guy with his indicating system, give me $2,000 or $2,500, whatever it was, I'll give you this system, and 6 months from now you'll be a millionaire. Of course, I was suspect, and there's no doubt that I get spammed constantly, because I do trade Forex, and I get spammed from all over the world. As much as I try to block it, it still gets in. Forex Master, all these various. To me, I think they're scams. Indicators. Just invest $2,000 and we'll make you a millionaire. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to know. I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn how it works, how to trade, and that's why I took your course. Then my curiosity morphed into, all right, I know why. I can read the chart. I can see what the chart is doing, but now I want to know why it's doing that. And that's what made me get interested, or at least curious enough to start reading the fundamental work. You know, like how do equities affect the markets? You know, the forex market. How does commodities affect the market? And I guess we were trading. And I think I may have been Paul again was talking about commodities and how they affect the Aussie and the Kiwi dollar. And that's what, you know, okay, well, that affects those dollars. What affects the US dollar? What affects the pound? Why? You know, I wanted to see how they all work together. And that's the mission I've been on, trying to learn how all the various markets.
That's what I noticed. I think that's what really has helped is that you got this balance, and you got a balance like almost between left brain and right brain, because if you keep both sides in harmony, the left brain, the logical part of the brain is always going to be, why is it doing this? Why is it doing this? And then the other part of the brain, it can look at a picture and see what it's going to do based on the chart. So if you get both of them together, seems like that's what you were describing earlier, is that something just started to click, and it kind of created a sense of balance and harmony for you.
Yeah, I think you're right. And, you know, when Andre used to come into the group, and Andre would put up his charts. Now, I guess he's a professional trader, isn't he?
Yeah, he's really good he's the one that got us so interested in trading view too.
He would put up, and he would lose me. He would completely lose me, because he'd be talking about other, you know, I know he's with the Kicklighter, whether that FX Live or FX whatever. But anyway, I would have no idea what he was talking about at times. And he would bring up commodities. Well, you know, look what this is doing. That's going to do this to that. What is this man talking about? And that would spark this interest in me. I want to be able to understand what he's talking about. I want to know how yields work. I want to know how they affect Forex. I wanted to know how equities work. How do they affect Forex? And I'm still learning. I mean, I get, it can be confusing, you know, but I want to know why things work out the way they do. And when I started to understand a little bit better what's affecting the various currencies, I'll stay in my trades longer. You know, I'll look at the, you know, a lot of times we'll enter a trade, and you'll say, oh, there's no reason to get out of that. Let that trade go. And I'd be thinking, you know, before, this is, you know, like here it's on. Oh no, look, it stopped now. I don't agree with Scott. And I would get out of that trade. All right, I made 30, 40 pips, let's say. But now, a couple days later, we'll open up charts, and you would say, wow, boy, that trade is still going. There's still no reason to get out of that trade. I'll wait for the 4, and then I'll, you know, make my disseminate. And I'm looking at it, that was 150 pips ago. What's the matter with me? You know, why am I not trust? You've been doing this 30 years. Why do I not trust what he's saying? And that was the barriers I had to break down. I still have to break them down. I still have to trust what I see. And yeah, if we're just starting a trend, it has to do it. It has to do 5 waves. You know, unless something earth-shattering happens. You know, unless Hillary gets elected. You know, it has to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's gonna do it. You just have, you know, as a trader, you have to trust that it's going to do it. And I think you need the fortitude to stay in. You know, I guess what a lot of people, especially in the beginning, trades don't happen in a straight line. They're going to go up and down, up and down. And this up and down is where you have to get over that, and that could be difficult for a guy who never traded before. When you see, oh, I got $30, and then it retraces, well, I got $4, and then it goes, wow, I got $60, and then I got $4. Yeah, you can't do it to yourself. You have to trust it's going to finish that pattern. And I would question myself. I would watch you put your charts up, and I would watch, Damien put up his charts, and I would look at all of these indicators and all of these lines and trend lines and all of it, and I would, I don't trade, I don't do that. I do now, but I mean, back then, I don't understand what they're doing. And it took a little time for me to understand, okay, yeah, trend lines, they work, they're real, they're valuable tools. Resistance levels, they're valuable tools. You may be in a trend and it hits that resistance level, and you can almost count on it. It's going to slow down or maybe even, retrace a little bit when it hits resistance level. But now the question is it going to continue? And I think that's where some of those fundamentals come in. Yeah, it's going to continue. It's just a resistance level. It's going to go, and then it will. But it's it's trusting that it will. That has been the issue for me. Trusting what I see on that chart. Again, I appreciate your honesty when in the beginning with your course, and you say you have to be prepared to put the time in. You have to be prepared to lose. Don't be surprised if you burn an account out. A lot of guys don't. A lot of people who are out there promoting, whether it's a signal system or their trading strategies, whatever, they don't say that. They just tell you, 6 months you'll be a millionaire. And I appreciate the fact that you were honest from the beginning, because it's challenging and it can be frustrating, but at the same time, it's awfully rewarding. And again, I'm not talking about bottom line. I'm talking about the satisfaction I get when I enter a trade. I anticipate where I think that trade is going to go, and it does what I think it's going to do. That is
it is
incredibly important.
It's very satisfying. Sometimes I just think, oh man, we did it again, and it just makes you feel like that's an empowerment. You have a power because you know that you know what you're doing, and the probability is very high. You could still have a losing trade, but that's not going to stop the fact that you're going to continue to be able to see it forever in the future, keep making good decisions.
Yeah. Well, that's what I also found out in this journey I'm on, is I stopped looking so much at my bottom line. If you take the money out of it, so just forget about the money for a minute. Although ultimately that's why we're here. But if you take the money out of it and you just try to set your goal, not so much your bank account, but set your goal. I want a winning trade, and the pip count doesn't matter. The fact is, I want to be able to go in, look at my charts, look at all the information that there is available to me to help me determine this is the trade that I want to make, and it performs accordingly to your plan. That's my reward. That's what I try to focus on, instead of, because if you start looking at your bottom line, especially when I've always worked hard for a living, so I've always been kind of frugal with money, or cheap, as my daughter says. That clouds your mind. That clouds your thinking. You're too worried about the dollar and the pip count versus the actual trade. So when we get in these trades and we see them coming a day or two, a week ahead of time, and when they happen, boy, they perform beautifully. That's the fun for me. The money in the account doesn't hurt, but if you have to, I don't know. To me, it just seems like it's more fun when I put that away, because it doesn't cloud my thinking. And for me, if I don't worry about the money, worry about the trade, and let the trade be why I'm here, and the money will come. I guess is the best way for me to say it.
Yeah.
And that's what's been happening. Because I'm not worried about that money.
It's more about achieving trading excellence and just
I so many winning trades. I want to win so many trades and reach a goal. That I'm doing. Then the next level for me was my winning trades have to be much superior to my losing trades. I have to control that. I have a stubborn streak, and I've said this many times in the webinars, and I will get into a trade convinced it's going to do something, and it goes way against me. And I will sit and nope, it's going to go, and I just watch that pip count go and go and go, and my account go and go and go. And sure enough, and this has happened a few times, I would be convinced that a trade is going to do a certain thing, and then we would have our little webinar, and then you would, oh yeah, well, I got that trade because that trade turned on us. Because I was too stubborn. I saw it, I recognized it, but I was too stubborn to close that trade. And I stayed in it, thinking it's going to come back. And it's almost like you're afraid to take that loss. You got it. Like you get into a trade thinking it's going to do something, and you convince yourself that's the trade. It's going to happen that way no matter what. Like you're trying to will the chart to do what you want it to do. And then when it goes against you, I get too stubborn at times to recognize it enough to, all right, you know what? Take that loss instead of taking a bigger loss down the road. If it comes back down, you can always re-enter it. But I get stubborn, and I've hurt myself a few times with some pretty decent losses because I get myself convinced, and I focus. I'm breaking away from this now. This is starting. I would focus. Just take the Euro US dollar for instance. We'll say, okay, it's ending a correction. It's going to go long, and I will have myself convinced it's going to go long no matter what. Now it may start going long, but then something else might happen. Whether it's, Trump says something, whatever the case may be, and that trade no longer, or perhaps we had it wrong. And that could be too. We think it might be starting to reverse, but yet no, it's going to go down some more before it reverses. I will stay in that trade, even though it turned against me and it's going to continue going the opposite direction. I will stay in that trade out of just pure stubbornness. I have learned that one of the things that sets your trading strategies above a lot of other ones, I believe. There's a lot, when I watched seminars, like I used to watch John Kicklighter's seminars a lot, and I would watch some of these other traders and listen to them. They're always waiting for a move to happen, but they're waiting for it to break a trend line or to break a moving average. Whereas you're getting in it so much earlier than what these guys are, because they're entering it using, lagging indicators, and you're getting in so much sooner than these guys are, and you're staying in longer as well, because these guys are relying so much on indicators that I think they're leaving a lot of money on the table. To be honest,
I guess what we're doing is just not really done hardly by other people, just the level of how we're able to read the charts, because you're right, everybody's focused on breakout trading and support and resistance and moving averages and indicators and all this stuff, and the probability of getting in a good trade is still just like, they don't really know whether they're going to get into a trade and how far it's going to go and things like that.
It kind of baffles me a little bit, because a lot of money seems to be left on the table. Like, if it's the beginning of a new trend, they'll wait until they're almost halfway through or a third of a way through a wave three before they'll get into a trade. Whereas we're already in. We've been in for the one. In many cases we're in. We're in for the two. We're already in the three, and we have all those pips ahead of them. And I don't know. It's just this is so much superior, in my opinion, than what I've seen. There was not a course. I read a book. I forgot the guy. He's an Australian guy, and his strategy is he has MACD on the bottom of his charts, and he has a moving average on the top, and he has red and green dots. And when those dots line up, that's when you enter your trades. I never used it because I think it was nonsense, to be honest with you. It just wasn't strong strategy, because by the time those dots would line up, you would already be 100 pips, in the direction of the new trend.
Oh, so,
yeah, it was I guess a strange strategy. And the small little book, I read the book, and I put up the indicator that they gave me a link to, and I put it on my charts, and I was looking at it, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. And one particular day, we were already in the trade that this indicator said to get into a good session and a half after we were already in it. And I'm like, this is not. I mean, it might work now and again. And then I did keep track for about 3 weeks of its trade, and its win to loss ratio was poor. It was, I remember right. I know I wrote it down. I probably have it someplace. The win to loss ratio was like 65-35. It wasn't good. So nothing against this man. He has a following. He's making money, I guess, but I didn't like this. I didn't like that strategy whatsoever. It was way behind us.
Yeah, there's so many things that I see out there that I just couldn't possibly do that type of trading after seeing, things the way we see them. It's like you can't do it because you can see things that they're not aware of. Even if they have heard of Elliott wave, I don't think anybody is really applying Elliott wave in a way that it really increases the probability to the extent that it does for us, because they're just not able to see. They just bring up a chart and they would maybe see, okay, there's a place where it sort of looks like an Elliott wave, and then over here there's a place, but the rest of it they don't see anything in there because they haven't figured out how to adjust the frequency all the way up and down, and how to compare correlated pairs and all that stuff. So they just think that, every once in a while there's a Elliott wave pattern that happens by coincidence.
I can't say enough about the techniques that you taught us. I learned it very early on when I first started trading with your strategy. I entered a trade one day. It was in the middle of a wave three, and it went a little bit, went into a wave four. It was a horrible trade, terrible trade. And I was angry with myself. And I went back to the notes I took, and what was the first rule that you taught us? You never enter a trade in the middle of a trend. You wait for a correction. That's one of the principles you teach, and that's what I did wrong. And it was a lesson I needed to learn that way, though, because otherwise I probably would have made it. If I had done that a dozen times and they were all profitable trades, then the one day I would be confident, hey, I know what I'm doing, and I would take a pounding. I would get beat bad because of overconfidence and not learning that simple little rule. You don't enter. You wait for an entry point. You wait for a retracement. You wait to get in for a trade. You wait for the end of the correction. And I had to learn that. 2.5 years later, believe me, that is one of my first rules. Do not enter a trade in the middle of a trend. I just wait. I will get there, but I have to be patient. One of the hardest things I think in trading is patience. That's something.
Yeah.
That's something that needs to be worked on every single day. Like I said, you want to will the charts to do what you want them to do. But you can't. You have to be patient. The chart will dictate to you when it's going to turn. Actually, most of the people in this group, it seems like everyone wants to help one another. I see something, you see something. You and Damien put it up on the screen more so than everyone else, and I see what you see.
Seems like I tell more people to not take our course than I do otherwise. People asking me, about joining and stuff, and I usually tell them, you probably don't want to do this.
This is my trading philosophy is essentially my strategy is your strategy. I use your strategy to trade. I listen to what other people have to say. You have to have an open mind, I think. And because when you do listen to what other people have to say, and you can see from your own experience, well, wait a minute, this is where their ideas aren't right, or they're not. They may not work with mine. And you see that with so many different traders. Like I said, you can go on FX Street, FX Today, all these different web pages. Most of them have some sort of training. Most of the training is very generic. Some strategies, there are some people who have different strategies. I've not found an outside strategy that I would even consider yet. Not that I'm looking. I like what I'm doing. But in the beginning, I was very open-minded. Maybe there is something else out there. Every strategy I've seen so far either depends on some sort of an indicator that you have to buy, or it depends on, like that one guy with the dots lining up on MACD and the moving averages. I know you're leaving too much money out. You're losing a lot. I'm finally at a level where I'm having fun. And it's the other day when we all got in those nice trades, and it was fun. It really was a lot of fun. And
Yeah, that's funny. I felt the same thing.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. And when you can enjoy what you do, that's all of it. You'll always be successful if you enjoy it.
On a roll too. Every week is another increase.
Yeah. February was a weird month. February, I started off the month very well. Boy, it was really, really well. But like halfway through February, I don't know I don't know how to explain this, but there's been days when I've opened the chart and I'm like, oh, you don't even have to think about it. It's there. It's plain as plain as the nose on your face. And you take that trade, and it's a successful trade. It's a beautiful trade. And there's nothing better than that. I love that. There's also my FX book. I signed up for that a couple months back, and they track your trading. They track to see what your drawback may be for the month, or what your profit is for the month, what trades you did, how many trades you made long, how many you made short, what pairs you made your most pips at with versus your weaker trades. So it's kind of insightful because you can go back at the end of the month and say, hey, I did good here, bad there, But it kind of helps you grow a little bit, help sorting out your weaknesses.
Yeah, I was really interested in that. You were talking to me about just all the things that over the last year have helped things to kind of level off, like took some of the pressure and confusion out of the whole process.
Yeah. I've only been doing this about 2.5 years. And
Total?
Yeah. I never traded before in my life.
Wow.
I used to go to work and I would hear some of the other cops that I worked with, they'd be talking about this investment and that investment. I'm like, how do you have time for that? And, where are you getting your stock tips from? I never even looked at stocks. So a few years ago, I retired from the police department. I worked for a couple of years after that doing, everything from executive protection to investigations. And I was even involved in heavy trucking for a while. And I was out of the house working more than I was when I was a police officer. So it wasn't working out. I didn't want to do it anymore. So I was talking to my wife and I said, I think I want to start learning about the stock market. It fascinates me that people can take some small amount of money, invest it, and, over the course of time, grow it. And just in some instances, small fortune. So at first I was just looking at regular stocks and was reading a lot online, trying to learn. I was looking into taking college courses. But I just really was a little confused by it. I opened up an account with TD Ameritrade, and they have training courses, video courses on their page, and I started taking the courses and the tests at the end of the course, and I found it interesting, and a lot of it was educational, but it was still a little confusing. How it's one thing to understand what a bond is and what an equity may be, or Forex. I never even heard of Forex before.
Wow.
But understanding how they interrelate can be somewhat confusing, So during the course of this time, I got junk mail from some Russian guy selling this Forex trading plan where, in just 6 months, you can take $2,000 and make it $100,000. So I'm very suspect of everything to begin with. But I started researching this guy, and the guy was an active trader. He definitely was recognized as a trader, but to me, it looked like a gimmick. There's no, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing this and no one would have a job. Everybody stay home. I started researching Forex. I didn't understand what it was. I wanted to learn how to trade. I didn't want to just buy a signal. That's what this Russian guy was offering, the signaling device. I wanted to learn how does it work? Why does it do what it does? And I started Googling and researching Forex, and Yin Yang came up, and you came up, and I researched you. And I said, why not? Why not? If he's going to teach you how to trade, that's what I want to do. So I signed up for your course, and I started taking it. I read all, going all the way back to your Bollinger Bands, and you walked us through Fibonacci and Elliott Wave and what have you. And I started, of course, signing into the webinars every day. So it took a little while, about 6 months for me to, I remember early on, you would say, yeah, this is a 5 of 3 or a 3 of 5. And I'm like, what the heck is this man talking about? I couldn't, I was all over the place with it. Once I started to understand what it was you were talking about and how the market was moving and how the patterns were forming, that part came easy in a sense. Looking at, seeing and recognizing the pattern, what an end of a trend is, the end of a correction, that was a little easier. Learning where the trend actually is, in respect to whether it's still in a trend or whether it's in a correction, sometimes that's tricky. But I thought, I started understanding what I was seeing and what you and Damien and some of the other guys, advanced traders were talking about. I think what the problem I was having was me. I didn't trust what I was seeing. It might be in a beautiful trend, and I'm like, whoa, it stopped. It's going to reverse. And I would take a small amount of profit and get out. Or if I entered a trade, and it was going against me for a while, I would, it's a bad trade, and I would get out. And then I would look at it a couple hours later or maybe the next day, and it was a beautiful trade. that was the biggest hurdle I had. And it seems the last couple months, I finally started to get past that. I started to understand to trust what I see, and give it room to let the trade happen. I guess one something I read one time, a trader said you have to allow the trade to happen. The trade isn't over until the trade is over. But we, or me anyway, I could overthink things and bail out, or sometimes overthink and not get into a good trade. That's another issue I'm dealing with. But I'm getting better at that too. The other day, for instance, with the the Aussie news, I got to the computer at 7:25 my time. I barely had a chance to open up the computer. But the Euro the Euro Kiwi especially, I didn't even think about that trade. I saw it. I said, "Wow, that's going down," and I started going through the Aussie Swiss just to see if the Aussie was finishing a correction or where it was. But when I saw that Euro Kiwi, I jumped in it, and I stayed in it for that entire move, and it was a pretty decent move.
It hasn't been that long. I didn't realize it's only been 2.5 years total, and you didn't trade before that. So that is not that much time. But the thing is, I noticed that when you got involved, you were serious about doing the work and adapting to the schedule and having to have your family support you. And it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. But, my wife has been phenomenal. Actually, she's the one 8 o'clock at night. She starts telling me you have to go to bed soon. Yeah, she knows how hard I worked over the years. When I was a police officer, I also drove tractor trailers, did security jobs, did all kinds of extra work. I had 4 children I had to take care of. Colleges were coming up, so I had to do what I had to do to make money. And after I retired, I was 50 years old when I retired, and here I was. I was on the side of the New York State Thruway hooking up, heavy tow trucks to these tractor trailers, dragging them off of the highway. Sometimes I was out 16-hour days. And she's like, enough of this. You're not home. You did this for 25 years. You should be finding a way to relax a little bit. So when I mentioned learning how to trade, she jumped right behind it. She was all for it. Matter of fact, she brought home information on courses and books to read and different avenues to start to learn, start to educate myself.
Wow.
Yeah, no, my wife
used to putting up with a lot from before. This is probably nothing compared to what you did before.
I think Forex trading, in my opinion, everyone has their own taste, but Forex is exciting to me because it's daily. When you trade equities, if you're going to trade the stock market or what have you, you might invest on Tuesday. But you're not going to, you might check the paper or go online and see where your trade is going and keep an eye on the business news. But that trade, you're kind of forgetting about it. It's an investment and you let it go. But ours is day to day. It keeps you on your toes. You're paying attention to what is going on in the world. You're paying attention to what, every currency seems to be doing. And, to me, I wanted to know why. It's incredible what influences the Forex market. Sometimes it's silly little things. Trump tweets something and then, the dollar will go 70 pips against you, I find it fun,
Yeah, you were saying that we base everything pretty much on reading the charts, but still a lot of times there's a little bit of uncertainty about some things. And sometimes we're thinking, might do this or might do that. But then you started to just really keep track of all the economic news. Like you got your office set up, and you got all your info coming in. And I think that helped you to get that final confidence that you need to say, yeah, this is a good trade, because everything, including the economics, is saying we should go for this.
Yeah, exactly. My wife and I were discussing this the other day. And the last few months, I've been having very good months, and not always about my pip count or my profit for the month or loss for the month. It was more about the quality of the trade. And I was talking to Serge about this the other day. When I started looking at it in a different perspective, when I stopped worrying about the bottom line, stop worrying about how many pips I'm going to make or not make, and just looking for that trade where you get in at the earliest possible time and letting it mature, and whether it's a 200 pip trade or a 25 pip trade, it didn't matter, and it doesn't matter as long as it was a good trade that I saw coming and I stayed in for the right reasons and got out. That's what that's what I'm looking for, and it's making my trading better. And a lot of that is the news. It's kind of started a while ago. I remember we were trading one day, and Paul was talking about oil and how it was affecting the Canadian dollar. And I don't know if it was you who had said something about commodities, how that influences the Aussie so strong. So that plus, we'll trade a news event, and it'll be obvious why a certain currency pair will be moving in a direction. Okay, it was the end of a correction. I don't know, Euro Aussie, and it was positive for the dollar, and we were expecting it to go short, and it goes short. We know why it went short, because non-farm payroll was favorable for the dollar, or GDP, whatever it may be. So I would understand, okay, that's influencing the dollar. Well, 3 days from now, when there's no news, why is it still moving in a strong pattern, or why is it going the other way in a strong manner? And that's where I got curious. I wanted to know, what is driving the trend in the long run? There must be more news. There must be other influences. So I started researching fundamentals regarding Forex more and more. And that's when I started to learn how equities influences the dollars, and how commodities influences the Aussie, and how all the Chinese news influences the Aussie. And oil prices. The Canadian dollar's been weak lately, and it's because oil's been down. So these things started to interest me. So when I'm researching that and I'm looking up, and early in the morning, I try to find as much information as I can about what happened the previous session. So if I get up for the London session, I want to know what happened, during the Asian session. So I look for whatever information I can. Keep that in mind. I found that FinViz webpage where you can go on and it shows you what's trading strong, everything from commodities to oil and Forex currencies, and it'll show you what's trading strong, what's trading weak.
Which website was that?
FinViz. I just signed up for it the other day, and it breaks down everything. Anything that's tradable, it pretty much breaks down. And it will give you a nice chart, and it'll show you exactly where the dollar is versus the rest of the currencies, and vice versa. I mean, for instance, before non-farm payroll, U.S. dollar was trading strong. Morning of non-farm payroll, when I looked at that page, U.S. dollar was the weakest currency, and I think the Kiwi and the Aussie were the strongest ones. So having that insight helps you when you start opening the charts and looking for the patterns. You have that in your mind. I'll write down what currencies seem to be stronger than the other currencies, what upcoming news we have for that day, and I'll listen. That Financial Juice has the score, and a couple times, I hear a siren go off. I open it up, and there was one day, it was I think it was Chinese trade news, and it affected the Aussie immediately. So I jumped in an Aussie trade, and I picked up a quick 75 pips or something. It was a fantastic trade. It was beautiful. And I wrote it out. It was against the present trend that it was in. I got out of it, and I waited to see, once it settled down and it stopped, and I waited to see what it was doing, and it started going back in the direction of the trend. So I got in the other way. So those kind of things help. Especially when you're just sitting here reading, or I spend a lot of time in this chair. If I'm not trading, I'm reading. I'm learning. I want to learn more. So getting back to what you said about the confidence, learning a little bit more about what's driving the market has definitely helped me with my confidence to stay in the trades that we see, as a group, or ones that, this group to me is incredibly valuable. I have you with your years of experience. Damien has great insight, Paul, and I listen to you guys talk because you bet where I'm going. So you'll show a trade, or you'll suspect, all right, by time non-farm payroll comes, it looks like there's going to be a short, and I'll stay with you and listen to you, and I'll tear apart my charts and work with TradingView now. I like some of the qualities of that charting system they have, because you don't have to draw on it like you have to do with MetaTrader. Because you can click on that little icon and you have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s. Well, it's beautiful. It's nice.
It is pretty nice, yeah.
Yeah, it's taken an adjustment compared to the MetaTrader 4 or 5 now. But that confidence is changing trading for me. I'm finally starting to feel like I'm going to make this a good living. It's going to be able to take care of my wife's still working. I want to supplement her income, so when she retires, her and I can kind of kick back and not worry about it. I'll continue to trade until I can't anymore, but as long as it's profitable, of course.
Nice. So it sounds like you're on the right track. How long do you think it'll be before your trading account is like providing your living? Or
I would think within the next year. If I can, I don't want to get over cocky either. It's good to be confident. You have to be confident when you.
It's like knock on wood, It's
you can't get cocky, because I've had that happen to me also. Earlier on, I fell into that gimmick. They caught me. That within 6 months or within a year, I'm going to be a millionaire. I fell into that hole, and I would have a month where, hey, I had some respectable profit. I got this. This is easy. Anybody can do this. I'm going to be within a year. I'll be. You quit your job. We're going to buy that cabin. I'm going to travel. And it's not that way. It's just not that way. You have to put you say it in the very beginning. And when I first saw one of you, I guess it was before I even signed up for your course. One of your, I guess it was YouTube, I saw it on, where you talked about a lot of traders will blow through sometimes 2 to 3 accounts before they start making a profit. And that's true. I believe that really is true. I've blown, not money-wise, but I've blown 2 practice accounts where I start, they give you the $10,000 on your demo account. And the first one, I had no clue what I was doing. I was learning how to trade with your videos, and I would enter trade and forget I even entered it. A month later, I go back, oh my goodness, it's 4,000 pips in the hole. But I forget it was even there. I opened up another one, a Swiss quote account, so I can have the MetaTrader 5. And it was the same thing. I would enter a trade, and I would be undiligent for a while. And but then I would I have nothing in the game here. So I would kind of like, oh yeah, I have these open trades that I forgot about. So I opened up with FXCM when they were still in the States. I opened up a small account with them. It was only like a $200 account. And I figured I have some money in the game. It's going to keep me honest. It's going to keep me diligent. And I'm still trading that account. I still have that account. I was up to 2,000 in that account. I came back down substantially. And now I'm over about $4,000 in that account. So, and this is trading mini and micro lots. I don't trade anything over maybe occasionally. Well, the biggest drawdown I got when I had 2,000 in the account. I got cocky, and I'm going to go a mini lot, which would be $100 a pip you would earn. So it'd be what 10 micro lots as a mini lot.
It's like 0.1
Yeah.
one lot, because like
Yes.
for $1,000, that 0.1 is about right, I think.
Yeah, but the risk management definitely wasn't there. So that's when I did a lot of damage to my account. And that's when I thought, okay, enough is enough. I went back to being reasonable. I would trade maybe one micro lot, two micro lots, depending on, well, I was scaling up sometimes too. And I built it back up. It's been slow going, but I don't care. And what's important is learning how to trade. Before I end up trading, losing $1,000 on a bad trade or $2,000. Some of the drawdowns, could be substantial. So when my win loss ratio is pretty good right now. This month I don't want to say it, but I'm doing pretty good. My win loss ratio I have definitely probably 60-40, give or take, and I've controlled my losses. Sometimes my bad trades, I would be stubborn. We've talked about this before. And I would stay in that trade because I know it's going to go the other way. And I'd end up taking a pounding. Whereas I would be in a good trade and I'd make some decent profit. And then I'm like, well, I'm not going to push it when you get out. And meanwhile, that trade will go for another couple of days, say. So, these are the obstacles that I've been dealing with. And I think there's a lot to what you've talked about in the past with things that may have happened in our childhood or earlier in our life. They stay with you, even if it's on a subconscious level.
Oh,
and
yeah.
At first I was like, well, I don't know, maybe, but I'm open-minded. And the psychological part of trading, you've spoken about it when you speak about it almost every day. A lot of the other research that I do from these other Forex web pages and what have you, psychological aspect of trading is probably bigger than the fundamentals or the technical aspect of it. I'm finding that in a way fascinating, but I'm also finding it kind of difficult to break. It has been difficult to break down some of the barriers and obstacles that I have. I do find that I will stay in a bad trade longer than I stay in a good trade. And I'm trying to reverse that. And that takes work. And there's no doubt about that. The more I read, there's countless books on the psychological part of trading. You go on YouTube and you can just find hours and hours and hours on that topic alone. So, I think in many ways, everything we've spoken about so far, the technical, fundamental, the personal development, and the psychological part is probably just as big, if not bigger, to become a profitable trader. The last few months have been, I've noticed a change in myself. I don't worry about the trades like I used to. If I entered a trade in the London market, I'd be nervous. I'd stay here and watch it instead of going in and maybe have a cup of coffee or go lay down for a little while before New York opens. So I'm finding, what? That trade's going to go. There's nothing that is on the menu or on the calendar that's going to make it reverse. And that's another thing I find. I have to ask myself, I enter a trade, is there anything coming up that could possibly change, make that trade go against me? And I wasn't asking that question before. I was just, it stopped. It's going the other way. Let me get out. And I would leave since the beginning, I leave a lot of money on the table. Not so much anymore. My trades are getting better.
I found that, after a while, you can really learn to tell if something is going to turn or if it's going to keep going. And it's usually just a matter of reading the charts. So for the most part, I really find it to be pretty accurate. So if I see something that looks like it's going to keep going, I just consider that's what it's going to do.
Yeah. Doing the research, you said it earlier, it definitely has given me the confidence to stay in trades longer. They're going to correct. And again, time frames are very important. I've made the mistake. I would be cycling through my chart, and I'll go to the daily, to weekly sometimes to see, what the overall trend direction. Like you taught us, I'll come down at the charts, different time frames, looking to see what's going on. And I've stopped at a 15-minute time frame, and then I would click on another currency pair, and I'd be looking, and then I would click back to that other one, and my God, it's taking off. Oh, look at this trade. Bang, I get in it and realize I'm on a 15-minute, and it's just making a quick retrace, and then it's going to go back in the trend. So I've made that mistake a few times.
Just exaggerates things a little bit.
Right. If you look at a 5-minute time frame, 4 pips looks like, it takes up the whole screen.
Yeah. And just think that's the way many of us used to always look at it.
Yeah. I people who go on those 5-minute, 1-minute time frames for scalping purposes, at the end of the day, they have to be exhausted, because you're constantly up and down, trying to get in that trade and knowing it's going to go. It may go 2 sessions a week sometimes. I think the longest trade I've ever had, probably 4, maybe 5 days, the longest I've stayed in a trade. Most of the time I'm trading within a day or two, getting in and out. And which is another mistake. Not a mistake. It's just I will enter a trade usually when it gets to the 4 and it's starting to make that wave 4, I'll get out. And sometimes I've lost money because, by the time you get out, when you recognize that it's in a 4, and then by the time you get back in, when you're looking for that 5, you're leaving a lot of pips on the table. Whereas if you were just to ride it out, let it draw down against you, and then let the 5 start, you're going to keep those pips that you would have lost on the end in the beginning of the 2 trades. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
And that's something I kid myself sometimes. Well, I'll get out here, but I'll just get back into the pot. Well, you miss a lot. If I don't get up in time, you can miss that 5, or you'll end up halfway through the 5. Now it's what's the point of getting in, because it's going to turn soon anyway. So these are things you just, they're day-to-day learning how to trade.
I noticed sometimes in the past, it just seems like everybody's kind of doing their own different trades and nobody's doing the same trades as much. You may be in the same trades. We all get in one together or something. But lately, it seems like the whole group is in harmony with certain, like everybody's in that Youre right at the same point and staying in it until, we're still getting out at different times. But
yeah, well, Euro dollar this week. How many guys stayed? Who stayed in it completely?
Surge.
Surge, good for him.
I think he's still in it. I think he's remained in it.
I was in and out of it a few times, actually. And again, because I reverted back to something I was doing earlier on, and I got out of it because of a gut feeling. And it was the wrong gut feeling. I should have trusted not only the technicals, but the fundamentals, because the dollar's been trading pretty strong, and the euro is just it's weak. The other day I read I think Italy is going into a recession. So when you have all these things against the euro, it's a weak currency for now. That could all change next week. The geopolitics and everything else going on in the world. But
you're writing them down on a notebook, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if you can really see it. I keep a log of the price in, price out, and over here I'll write what the event will be. So this way, if it's a really good, if something I really want to know about, say the following month, I'll highlight it. All right, so I don't know if you can really see that. And I got jumped into a few trades there, and 104. I made about about 180 pips between the trades that I am. So I marked it down. Okay, it was very negative, and this is how it affected the trade. So next month, or the next time they have their GDP, and I can go back and say, okay, this worked well the last time. Let's see what happens this time.
Oh, nice. That was like last Tuesday or something?
Yeah, it was on the 5th. Oh, that's February.
There was one day I popped into the webinar at that time and just 5 minutes before the news, and that's when I got into the Euro Aussie and stuff.
I got in that day. I got in the Euro Aussie, the Aussie dollar, and the Aussie Swiss.
Before the news also.
I got the Euro Aussie just a minute before the news broke. And the other two I got in, they were already moving. So I was, getting into the charts kind of quickly. It's been a lot of fun for the last couple months. I've really, and that's another reason why I believe my trading is changing. Is I'm turning that corner because I'm having fun.
It is. Lately, it just feels so, like it's in harmony. Me too, because I'm doing a lot of personal development work on myself, and I think I've gotten rid of some resistance or some subconscious blocks or something. And then later, I trade differently, or I feel differently about trading.
I guess it's growing pains that all of us have to go through. Excuse me. I would get frustrated. I would get angry. There's been times where I wanted to throw my computer right out the window. And that's bad, because when that happens, you can't trade.
Oh, yeah.
At least I can't. If I get upset emotionally, or if I get angry, I take it personal sometimes. It's like the market's out to get me. I walk away because I found if I sit here with a chip on my shoulder or with vengeance, I'm gonna get my money back. They're not beaten. Forget it. You're just gonna lose more money. And I find it happened to me a few times where I would have a trade. I was convinced it's going in one direction, and I would just get in, get out, get in, get out. I'm gonna catch it this time, and end up really, hurting my account. But more so, you can always make more money. My father has said that since I was a kid. You can always make money. It's what it does to you. It clouds your mind. It affects your day to day with your wife and your kids, and it just affects everything when you allow it to get to you like that. So that has been a big challenge. I've the last several months, even before things started turning for me, I would find that getting rid of that anger, getting rid of the personal, the market doesn't know who I am. It's not coming to get me. And everything just seems to fall into play. It just starts to happen. You start to see things clearer. You have to take your emotions out of it. And it's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we're emotional beings. But trying to control that and put that aside, that can be challenging, probably for every one of us. You teach how the market is alive, like it's a being, and it is. Well, I haven't been back to the course in a while. How is it you refer to the market?
Well, it's just like a living organic being, sort of like it's like, since we're looking at charts, I just look at it as being, it's a combination of the collective emotions of all the traders plus the supposed supply and demand stuff. But you can see that it's not supply and demand that causes the market to jump up and down every time somebody says a word or something like that. That's just people's emotions. One thing for sure is that you can know what's going on a lot better if you're in a very calm and relaxed state.
Well, there's no doubt that outside stressors affect your thinking. And I don't remember exactly what the incident was, but it was a week or two ago. I was upset over something outside of trading. It was completely different. When I sat down in front of my computer, I couldn't think. I really couldn't. I looked at charts and I just I turned everything off. I couldn't do it. My head wasn't clear enough. I couldn't concentrate enough on the charts to see what they were going to do. And I just said the best thing for me to do was just walk away for a half a day or a day. That's what I did. I went and I did something that relaxes me and came back. So there's definitely no doubt that a lot of what we do is a psychological thing. You know, it's there's so many different things that will cloud your head. And I mean, you've said it, I've read it by other traders and so-called experts that if you're having bad trading day, or if you have a lot on your mind, or if there's something stressing out, walk away. Take a day or two off, clear your head, and come back later on and see how you feel and see how things are going. And it definitely works. I mean, especially earlier on in trading, I had 1 week in particular, everything I did was wrong. And I was so angry at myself. You feel stupid. Like, why am I not understanding this? Why am I not getting this? And I was on Thursday. I turned my computers off. Pretty much, you can see a computer behind me. My wife and I share this office. When she works from home, she's usually behind me. I just shut the door to the office. I walked away until, I think, Tuesday the following week. And then I sat down because I was going to quit. I thought about quitting. And I sat down, cleared my head, and things started to change. I made a little money. I started to get a little bit more confidence. So that part had gone away. And I imagine anybody who does this or tries to do it must go through the same emotions I'm experiencing at times, thinking about quitting. Why am I not understanding this? I see the same things that these guys are seeing. Why is it, at the end of the week, they have great trades, and at the end of the week, I was in the same trade, but I didn't make any money. So it would tell me it's me. It's not Scott. It's not, it's not anybody else in the group. It's something, it's me. I'm sitting here listening to what's going on. So I started keeping track of my trade. Well, that's what this helps me with, because it's right in front of me. It makes me write down my trades, my good ones and my bad. When I can look back at the end of the week, wow, I can put the chart up and I can look at where I entered and where I exited, and I can see where I made my mistake or where I didn't make my mistake. And this silly little chart thing I have going here has helped me develop into a more consistent trader and a more confident.
I would think that would be very useful, and I think everybody should do that.
It helps me. I also keep one of these. Remember the old school books, the compositional books? I keep one,
yeah.
And I will write down my ideas for the day or the week. We'll have a discussion in London, and you might bring up, well, 2 days from now, I think this will be ready to maybe end the trend or whatever the pair may be. Well, I'll write it down. I'll write down the idea. I will write down anything I hear on the television regarding business news. I will write down when I go through FX Street and I look at what their analysts are saying. Anything, if I see a couple of analysts, especially from different entities, saying the same thing, I'll write that down. That might be something to pay attention to. So, and I just keep this log. I'll go back. Oh yeah, that's right. That's what we talked about on Tuesday. Today's Thursday. Let's see. Did this pan out? Did this work the way we thought? I said this to you before. I a lot of times early when I first started doing this, I wouldn't wake up to the London market, and I'm like, it's not that important. I would look. There's no red level news. I'm going to stay and I'm going to get a good night's sleep and I'll get up for London. But then I would get up for the London or the New York market, and I would hear you say, boy, that we got into that pound just as it turned, and it's a great trade. This is going to be love. And I'd be sitting here like, no knows why. And, and I would get so angry. So that's when I decided I'm going to be up for the London market no matter what. And I have to learn and listen to what is out there. You
So
know,
that's your schedule now. I mean, every day.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, I do look forward to Saturday mornings. That is the biggest Forex market. Yeah, that's when it seems like
Oh,
most
yeah.
of the trade is really out there. I guess London is the hub of Forex.